I got a green light here, man.
It's off at the box.
Did,
Turn it on.
why did someone turn it off?
I don't know.
It should be. Is it on them?
Hold the power button.
Yep. All right. How about now? There you go. All right. Welcome. Hey, so this is a special message. This is entitled Declaration of Independence from the Religion of Safeness. And hey, look at the slides. Hopefully there'll be a lot of slides today and some audio. But please pass this around, radio.ccstpaul.org for those of you on YouTube and Facebook. We're going to get censored someday. They're already, if you haven't been watching the news and paying attention, they are going to censor us someday. And I would encourage you to, Bible radio won't be censored. So it's the Word of God right now. This message will go out audio this week. But for those of you who can, YouTube and Facebook, we'll see how long they keep it up there. But Heavenly Father, thank you for today. And I just ask you, Lord, to be Lord and lifted up of just what I just want to share what's on my heart. And so we just praise you and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, you know, our United States Constitution has some things. So listen, I'm not about saving America. I'm about saving Americans and anyone else who's listening to us around the world. First and foremost, it's to know Jesus Christ as Savior and Lord. However, here in America, we do have a United States Constitution. We have some things. And if you understand the United States Constitution, you need to read the Founding Fathers, and really you need to go back the preceding couple of years and listen to their pastors or read their pastors. Maybe if someone reads their sermons to you, then you can listen. But all these things enveloped in this. But we're going to do a Declaration of Independence. I'm just going to read, Alex and I are going to be reading the Declaration of Independence and some rebuttals of how it's even playing in today. So I would encourage you this. And that, you know, how to determine if a country is a free country or not. And remember, free men do not ask permission to bear arms. And so in a free country, nation, the government protects your rights. They don't give you your rights. So I'd like you to watch this video. Maybe you're getting information for the first time on the American form of government, but we're going to go from there as well. So here we go. All right, we got to get here for the audio. Ready? You ready? All right, here we go.
When Benjamin Franklin exited the Constitutional Convention, he was asked by a woman, "Sir, what have you given us?" His immediate response was, "A republic, ma'am, if you can keep it." Yet most Americans today have been persuaded that our nation's governmental system is a democracy and not a republic. The difference between these two is essential in understanding Americanism and the American system. Before we discuss political systems, however, it's helpful to address the confusion that has been spread about the political spectrum. Many have been led to believe that the political spectrum places groups such as communists on the far left, fascists or dictators on the far right, and political moderates or centrists in the middle. However, a more accurate political spectrum will show government having zero power on the far right to having 100% power on the far left. At the extreme right, there is no government. The extreme left features total government under such labels as communism, socialism, Nazism, fascism, princes, potentates, dictators, kings, any form of total government. Those who claim that Nazis and fascists are right-wing never define their terms. This amounts to spreading confusion. Toward the middle of the political spectrum can be found the type of government limited to its proper role of protecting the rights of the people. That's where the Constitution of the United States is. Those who advocate such a form of government are really constitutional moderates. So let's analyze the basic forms of government. They are monarchy or dictatorship ruled by one, oligarchy ruled by a few, democracy ruled by a majority, republic ruled by law, and anarchy, which is ruled by no one. In discussing these five, we'll see that they can be narrowed down to even fewer. Looking first at monarchy or dictatorship, this form of government doesn't really exist in the practical sense. It's always a group that puts one of its members up front, A king has his council of nobles or earls, and every dictator has his bureaucrats or commissars, the men behind the scenes. This isn't ruled by one, even though one person may be the visible leader. It's ruled by a group. So let's eliminate monarchy, dictatorship, because it never truly exists. Oligarchy, which is ruled by a group, is the most common form of government in all history. And it is the most common form of government today. Most of the nations of the world are ruled by a powerful few, and therefore oligarchy remains. At the other end, we find anarchy, which means without government. Some people have looked over history and found that many of its worst crimes were committed by governments, so they decided that having no government might be a good idea. But this is a mistake, because as the ancient Greeks stated, without law there can be no freedom. Our founding fathers agreed and held that some amount of government is a necessary force in any civilized, orderly society. In a state of anarchy, however, everyone has to guard life, liberty, and property, and the lives of family members. Everyone must be armed, and movement is severely restricted because one's property has to be protected at all times. Civilized people have always hired someone to do the guarding, a sheriff, a police force, or some branch of government. Once law enforcement was in place, the people were freer. They could leave their property, work in the fields, and so on. In short, the proper amount of government makes everyone freer. There are some who advocate anarchy, however, not because they want no government, but because they don't like what they have. They use anarchy as a tool for revolutionary change. The condition of anarchy is very much like a vacuum where something rushes in to fill it. These calculating anarchists work to break down the existing government with rioting, killing, looting, and terrorism. Tragically, the people living in such chaos often go to those best able to put an end to it and beg them to take over and restore order. And who is best able to put an end to the chaos? The very people who started it. The anarchists who created the problem then create a government run by them, an oligarchy, where they have total power. This is exactly what happened in Russia that led to Lenin taking total power, and in Germany where Hitler's brown shirts created the chaos that brought him to power. But anarchy isn't a stable form of government. It's a quick transition from something that exists to something desired by the power-hungry. It's a temporary condition, and because it isn't permanent, we eliminate it as well. The word democracy comes from two Greek words, demos, meaning people, and kratein, meaning to rule. Democracy, therefore, means the rule of the people, majority rule. This, of course, sounds good, but suppose the majority decides to take away one's home, or business, or children. Obviously, there has to be a limit. The flaw in democracy is that the majority isn't restrained. If more than half the people can be persuaded to want something in a democracy, they rule. What about republic? Well, that comes from the Latin, res meaning thing, and publica meaning public. It means the public thing, the law. A true republic is one where the government is limited by law, leaving the people alone. America's founders had a clean slate to write on. They could have set up an oligarchy. In fact, there were some who wanted George Washington to be their king. But the founding fathers knew history, and they chose to give us the rule of law in a republic, not the rule of a majority in a democracy. Why? Let's demonstrate the difference in the setting of the Old West. Consider a lynch mob in a democracy. 35 horseback riders chase one lone gunman. They catch him, and they vote 35-1 to hang him. Democracy has triumphed, and there's one less gunman to contend with. Now consider the same scenario in a republic. The 35 horseback riders catch the gunman and vote 35-1 to hang him. But the sheriff arrives, and he says, "You can't kill him. He's got his right to a fair trial." So they take the gunman back to town. A jury of his peers is selected, and they hear the evidence and the defense, and they decide if he shall hang. Does the jury even decide by majority rule? No, it has to be unanimous or he goes free. The rights of the government aren't subject to majority rule, but to the law. This is the essence of a republic. Many Americans would be surprised to learn that the word democracy does not appear in the Declaration of Independence or the U.S. Constitution, nor does it appear in any of the constitutions of the 50 states. The founders did everything they could to keep us from having a democracy. James Madison, rightly known as the father of the Constitution, wrote in essay number 10 of the Federalist Papers, "Democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention, have ever been found incompatible with personal security or the rights of property, and have in general been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths." Alexander Hamilton agreed, and he stated, "We are a republican government. Real liberty is never found in despotism or in the extremes of democracy." Samuel Adams, a signer of the Declaration of Independence, stated, "Democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself." The founders had good reason to look upon democracy with contempt because they knew that the democracies in the early Greek city-states produced some of the wildest excesses of government imaginable. In every case, they ended up with mob rule, then anarchy, and finally tyranny under an oligarchy. During that period in Greece, there was a man named Solon who urged creation of a fixed body of law not subject to majority whims. But where the Greeks never adopted Solon's wise counsel, the Romans did. Based on what they knew of Solon's laws, they created the 12 tables of the Roman law and, in effect, built a republic that limited government power and left the people alone. Since government was limited, the people were free to produce, with the understanding that they could keep the fruits of their labor. In time, Rome became wealthy and the envy of the world. In the midst of plenty, however, the Roman people forgot what freedom entailed. They forgot that the essence of freedom is the proper limitation of government. When government power grows, people freedom recedes. Once the Romans dropped their guard, power-seeking politicians began to exceed the powers granted them in the Roman Constitution. Some learned that they could elect politicians who would use government power to take property from some and give it to others. Agriculture subsidies were introduced, followed by housing and welfare programs. Inevitably, taxes rose and controls over the private sector were imposed. Soon, a number of Rome's producers could no longer make ends meet, and they went on the dole. Productivity declined, shortages developed, and mobs began roaming the streets, demanding bread and circuses from the government. Many were induced to trade freedom for security. Eventually, the whole system came crashing down. They went from a republic to a democracy, and ended up with an oligarchy under a progression of the Caesars. Thus, democracy itself is not a stable form of government. Instead, it is the gradual transition from limited government to the unlimited rule of an oligarchy. Knowing this, we as Americans are ultimately left with only two choices. We can keep our republic, as Franklin put it, or we will inevitably end up with an oligarchy, a tyranny of the elite.
Well, that's where we are, folks. So, look, this is just this last week. City demands churches turn over names and addresses and phone numbers of people who attend worship services so they can track them for, violating social distancing. We see in Tennessee, a county bans communion, hymnals, and even Bibles at church. Because, you can spread the coronavirus, so they say. Look at the Church of England, no surprise, now thinks church is non-essential. So let's just look at the video you just saw there and just think about this when it comes to the vaccines. The vaccine. The horrific truth is if people they're told to get into boxcars to be taken to various to virus protection camps, many of them would rush to get in line. That's to Auschwitz, by the way. And you're thinking, well, could that really happen? I mean, really? Folks, you don't remember history. This happened in the United States in World War II. Instruction to all persons of Japanese ancestry. 250,000 U.S. citizens were put into internment camps, for their safety. These are U.S. citizens. These are the camps that were around. And again, this is all information, son, that around the United States. Whole families were hoarded up. Their businesses gone and brought to these internment camps. This is what they look like. Oh, you got an American flag there. This is where they're housing. These are first and second and even third generation Japanese U.S. citizens, owned businesses and everything here. This is what their internment camp looked like. This is what they regarded by U.S. soldiers. This is what an internment camp looks like when just defeating the people. Many of the people died there. Whole families just rounded up. But there's something else that you probably don't know about. The 442nd Infantry Regiment, made up of second-generation Japanese citizen men. They volunteered. They go, look, we're citizens of the United States. We're here to fight for the United States. And so they put them over in Europe. One of the most decorated battalions, one of the most decorated, more medals of honors were awarded in Bronze Stars and Silver Crosses, everything to this unit. Did you know about that? See, I have a personal attachment to this. My best friend, Mike Fernandez, married Lynn Caniciero, and her mom is Sachiko, and her dad, they met in an internment camp. Lynn was born later after that. And many of their family members. But I met her mom, became Sachiko. She just went to be with the Lord. She made it to what, I think her 100th birthday. And she didn't want to talk about it much. But I'm a student of history, and I would ask her about it. I says, if you were here, UCLA grads, doctors, lawyers, scientists, business people, all rounded up and brought out to the desert. It wasn't until she was in her late 60s that she started writing short stories, and she started to develop this as well. And loved sitting and listening to the stories and finding out about the 442nd Infantry Regiment there. But where are we today? Where are we today? Here's another video for you. And just, again, see what's happening here. And you just judge for yourself.
Last week, we interviewed a longtime partner at the consulting firm McKinsey & Company called Peter Walker. Like so many in finance and consulting, Walker spent an awful lot of his career doing business in China. We have no idea how much money he made doing that. We do know that along the way, Walker internalized a lot of the attitudes of China's totalitarian government. During our interview, we asked Walker what he thought of China's lockdowns. Here's what he said. Now, credible reports suggest that Chinese authorities locked people in their apartments and left them to die. We know they snatched people off the street and threw them into police vans. God knows where they went. That's the quarantine that you think they deserve high praise for. Why?
Well, I think, Tucker, if you just look at the results, okay, so I know there's always going to be questions about exactly what the numbers are, but I think the harsh action that they took, given the scale of China and the number of big cities in it, was exactly what they needed to do to be able to prevent the outbreak from going any further. And the reality is the outbreak hasn't gone much beyond Wuhan.
So the secret police kidnapping citizens off the street, authorities locking people in their apartments from the outside until they starve to death. Just look at the results. All of that, Walker said, was, quote, exactly what they needed to do. This is the view of one of America's most prominent business leaders. He did not seem ashamed to say it. In fact, later in our interview, Walker suggested that American authorities could have done the same things in New York if only they'd gotten an earlier start. Kind of a shame they didn't. Your jaw dropped watching it. But here's the striking thing. Nobody seemed to notice that he said it. Walker didn't find himself on the front page of the New York Times the next morning. No one in American business denounced him. He went home to bed, and that was it. Totalitarianism does not shock us anymore. Maybe that's because all of a sudden, it's all around us. You may have seen this tape already. If not, you've likely seen many more like it in the past few weeks. Two armed officers arrive at a family's home in Wisconsin. Someone has reported the mother to police for arranging a play date for her daughter. That's now a crime. Here's what happened next.
Are you aware that we're in a stay-at-home order right now?
Yeah, obviously.
By the government?
Yes,
of
I am
Wisconsin?
aware.
Okay, you're aware of that?
I am aware.
So I don't need to explain that to you?
Why are you here?
Because your daughter is going to play at other people's home and you're allowing it to happen. Stop having your kid go by other people's home.
Are we done here?
No, we're not.
Okay.
Your middle initial and your last name.
I'm not giving it to you. I haven't done anything wrong.
Okay. Perfect. We got it.
Okay.
And that'll be documented too, that you're uncooperative.
You were uncooperative. That will be documented. Notice the tone they strike with this mother. They are standing on her property, uninvited, hectoring her about the so-called crime of allowing her daughter to play outside the house. They're not apologizing for this. They're not embarrassed to be carrying out an order that has no basis in science. They are utterly self-confident. They treat her with pure contempt like a peasant. And later, the Calumet County Sheriff's Department posted an account of what happened on their Facebook page. In it, they refer to that mother's mobile home 6 times. Just, she lives in a mobile home. Oh, just a prole, just a peasant. Shut up and obey. Who cares what she thinks? They believe they have the right to do that. The question is, where exactly do they get that right? That's a good question. It's a question that we are strongly discouraged from asking. The short answer is governors told them they could. Never in American history have politicians been more powerful than they are now. Effectively, they are gods. In the state of Maine, for example, Governor Janet Mills now has the power to suspend any law she doesn't like. She can seize any state resource she feels like seizing. She can force any citizen or all citizens from their home. She can do all of this for as long as she wants, as long as she believes Maine is in a state of emergency. In fact, there's virtually nothing that Janet Mills can't now do. Many governors now have these powers. J.B. Pritzker is the governor of Illinois. On Monday, Pritzker did his best to explain why his word is now law in the state. It has to be law, he explained. Otherwise, thousands would die.
The stay-at-home order has prevented tens of thousands of illnesses and thousands of deaths. History will remember those who put politics aside to come together to keep people safe. It will also remember those who so blindly devoted to ideology and the pursuit of personal celebrity that they made an enemy of science and of reason.
In 3 sentences, Governor Pritzker framed himself as a leader of historic stature. Those who doubt his decrees are, quote, enemies of science and reason, enemies of civilization itself, enemies of the state. 2 days later, on this Wednesday, it emerged that Pritzker's own wife, who has her own state employees, was one of these people. His wife apparently had violated the lockdown herself. Governor Pritzker was asked about this. Here's how he responded.
What is your response to people who say the stay-at-home order and non-essential travel bans aren't being abided by your family? I believe there's a report from Illinois Rising Action that says that she recently traveled to Florida.
Well, first of all, I want to say that in politics, it used to be that we kept our families out of it. My official duties have nothing to do with my family. So I'm just not going to answer that question. It's inappropriate, and I find it reprehensible, honestly, that that reporter wrote a story about it.
Yeah, how dare someone cover that? Asking about whether or not J.B. Pritzker's own family is obeying the order that your family is morally obligated to follow is, quote, inappropriate. Indeed, the governor says it is reprehensible. How dare you? It would be very useful in moments like this to have an independent media. News organizations exist to hold the powerful to account. Here we have the powerful acting with no accountability at all. And our news media, they are cheering it on, besotted fangirls. No abuse is too grotesque for them. No talking point is too stupid to repeat. Reporters will do whatever they are told. They are all in. MSNBC recently sent a camera crew to document one of the latest and most Orwellian developments in America's descent into Chinese-style social control, barking drones that harangue citizens from the air. MSNBC was delighted by it.
Please move away from each other and separate.
Elizabeth, New Jersey is now using drones to spread the life-saving message.
You are not immune to this virus.
Move away from each other, commands the state of New Jersey. Break it up! Your God-given right to free assembly has been suspended indefinitely. Back inside, proles, or you will face the consequences. MSNBC applauds this as if it's all completely normal. In fact, it is, they tell us, a life-saving message. Handmaidens to the corona security state. But to their credit, at least MSNBC put it on television. Most outlets don't even bother to cover stories like this. The other day, prosecutors in New Jersey charged 9 people for daring to participate in a Jewish wedding in their backyard. A few months ago, that would have made the news. For 250 years, Americans have enjoyed the unfettered right to practice their faith as they choose. Now they don't. It happened overnight. Last month, Christians across the country were legally prohibited from celebrating Easter in their own churches. The national media barely noted it. How exactly is this happening? Well, it turns out that's not clear. Strangely, not very many people have asked. Politicians have no right to do any of this. They cannot make it illegal for people to go to religious services. The Constitution of the United States expressly prohibits that. The words could not be clearer. The First Amendment explicitly prevents government from making any law that inhibits the exercise of religious faith. That's not a detail or a footnote. It is a cornerstone of our history and of our legal system. Millions of people, probably your ancestors, fled to this country from around the world precisely because our Bill of Rights gave them this guarantee. It's why this country was founded. And in a moment, it's gone. How? Where did politicians get the authority to do this? Because some elderly, power-drunk epidemiologist told them to do it? That's not how our system works. It can't work that way. Occasionally, you hear someone complain about this. Some lonely civil libertarian will fret that we may be on a slippery slope toward losing our rights. If only. We're already there. We've slid to the bottom of that slope. Our rights are gone. No one has explained how politicians are allowed to do this. Where's the authority come from? How can they override the Constitution? Nobody seems to care. They're too afraid. But if you think this moment is scary, consider what might come next. Now that we've ceded all authority in the country to our political leaders, what can't they do? What are the limits to their power? That's not a theoretical question. It's not an argument over philosophy or political theory. It is the most practical possible question. The answer will define where this country goes next. What can't politicians do in the name of public health? As it stands, politicians won't let people worship or work or go to school or see their aging parents. They've placed the nation under house arrest. That's happening today, right now. But let's say we all get more afraid. What then? What couldn't they start doing? Could they intern people? Seriously. You can dismiss the possibility of that if you like, but remember that just a few months ago, most of us would have dismissed as ludicrous the possibility that propaganda-spewing drones would be hovering above. Now we have them. So what's next? What can't they do? Let's draw a line at some point.
Well, folks, there we are. I would encourage you, again, get our radio link out because this won't be censored. I don't know if this is even going to make it to YouTube or Facebook because they have algorithms and they can get Tucker Carlson's voice and they know, American government, and so we might get censored with that. But I want to go through some things with you here, and I want to be able to read these things to you. Again, our First Amendment and Second Amendment. The first 10 amendments are called the Bill of Rights, but we're going to go through the Declaration of Independence. Alex and I, he's our guy at the Capitol, and we're going to go through the Declaration of Independence and see if it even applies, even here in the state of Minnesota here. So get this. This is really old, so I don't know if it's relevant today, but it's from, 1776. This will be on the screen. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America, when in the course of human events, I'm going to put my glasses on here. In the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and God's entitled them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments, long established, should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer with evils, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evidences a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove these, let's facts be submitted to a candid world. There's 27 of them, by the way. He has refused to assent to the laws that most wholesome and necessary for public good. We're going to try to go from slide to slide. I don't know if it's going to work or not. Alex has a rebuttal there. Go ahead.
Right, so that is our governor, and he issued an executive order on March 25th, which isn't law. It's not law. Those are just guidelines that was voluntary, but now he is using force to help people comply.
You know what? Just keep his slides up. I'm going to read through mine. Why don't we just do that, okay? Because I'll just read mine there. You got it? All right. We're trying a new technology here. You got his slide going? There you go. All right. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend them. You got to go to his next slide there. There you go.
He's forbidden passing laws. Right now, Congress is meeting via Zoom, and they have such a hard, the way that they have it set up right now, it's very hard for us public to actually follow them and just follow laws. So.
He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people unless those people would relinquish their right of representation in the legislature, a right insurmountable to them and formidable to tyrants only.
Limitation on social gatherings. I mean, obviously, you guys know, so I don't really have to go into much details on that one. But yeah, funeral homes and businesses are all being...
Again, this is the colonies, again, where we got American Revolution. This was going on for quite a few years. We're only dealing with it now, but it's just coming to light. He has called together, you can go to the next one. I start reading, you can go to the next one. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures.
So if you take a look at that picture closely, there are a few legislators in there. So, and each of them has to be about 6 feet apart. So everyone is not even there. Meeting via Zoom and just all of that's happening right now. So all because of his executive order.
Trying to get to my slides here. Come on. My slides aren't going, so I'm trying to read my notes. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with mainly firmness of his evasions of the rights of the people.
The governor is ignoring us, I mean, even through the 3 protests now, I mean, he just seems to be getting more and more emboldened on his decision.
All right. He has refused for a long time, after such dissolutions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the danger of evasion from without and compulsions from within.
So he claims that we can rescind this order, but his Democratic Party keeps blocking talks of it. So every time that these things even get brought up, Democrats just blocks it, and because of that, they cannot even.
They say we have a
discussion
democracy.
about it. Right.
People rule, okay, all right. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, counties, state of Minnesota, for that purpose obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass, my slides are going crazy here. Well, you're just gonna have to read it there, Alex.
All right. Well, sanctuary city, St. Paul is now a sanctuary city. Anyone can get benefits, including illegals. So that kind of, yep. Citizens are not really protected, but yet illegals are, so.
Go to the next one, number 8 grievance.
The legislative changing process. So this executive order was supposed to be a 30-day thing, and he should have used the least restrictive measure, which but he did not. He just quickly assumed what is essential and what is not, and he has the power to do it, according to him. So.
All right, go to the next one. So he has made judges dependent upon him and his will. Go ahead.
So the judges, the Minnesota state judges have been silent. I have not heard anything about them. But it's funny because it's within his duty to appoint judges, and he has appointed up to 5 so far. So is there a conflict of interest there? It seems like it.
Again, you can read the Declaration of Independence. Go to the next one, 10. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well.
My slides aren't working.
Okay, so there you go. There is the stay-at-home hotline for people that are violating the stay-at-home order. So you can actually call on your neighbors if they are violating it.
But I thought he said this was just a strongly worded advice, and so, but they're not going to be enforceable.
It started out that way, but now it's progressing more and more and more. So, and yeah.
Next.
Right, so stay in the Army without consent. The law enforcement are now handing out citations to people that are violating, and this is happening here. I think there has been over 20 cases so far for us. So if you guys want to get that, link later on, just let me know.
Good.
Right, military rule. So Governor Walz does have the power to implement and use the National Guard. But the issue is how far is he going to go with everything that he's doing right now? If we don't do anything or say anything, well, then he can do whatever he wants.
Excellent, keep going.
Yeah, so Governor Walz had made a pact with 6 other states, including Kentucky. And these states are supposed to be part of the Midwest, but Kentucky's is not even considered part of the Midwest.
So this is amendment, or this is declaration number 13. It says he has combined with others to subject us to jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution.
Yep.
and unacknowledged by our laws and given assent to their acts of pretended legislation. So in other words, we're not going to do anything until those other 6 states were all in agreement. Anyone come from large families? Have all of your kids ever gotten together and just said, we're all in agreement on this? You pretty much ruled, you and the older siblings ruled by democracy, right?
Oh, yeah.
And tyranny.
Force, scare, yep.
Force,
scare
by,
tactics,
okay.
all that, yeah.
For quartering large bodies of Army troops among us, number X.
There you go. Yeah, so like I said earlier, we just need to be watchful of how keep saying president.
President. He wants to be.
He wants to be, yes. Governor Walz, uses the military.
Next one, 15, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment from any murder which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states. Mock trials.
So right now, criminals are being released because of this COVID, but yet pastors and moms and other people are being arrested. It just doesn't make sense.
And so for cutting off, number 16, for cutting off trade with all parts of the world, well, look what's happening in our state.
Yeah, so Minnesota has a lot of clients outside of the state, country actually. So because of that, I mean, jobs and goods are not being able to, go out.
Well, here's one that everyone knows from school. Taxation without representation. Boston Tea Party. All that kind of stuff. But anyways, that was minor compared to the other things, yeah. Okay?
So right now, Costco and Menards are requiring everyone who wants to shop there to purchase masks and wear them. So that's a form of taxing us. Yeah.
No trials or jury?
Yeah.
Red flag laws?
So immediately, if you are not social distancing, you are already deemed disobeying his law.
Which we saw in that video in Wisconsin. And what about the mom here last week in Brooklyn Park who was arrested at the park? The park was closed.
Yep. So this one I will explain more in 21. Next one. Okay, so Governor Walz increased funding for mental health, promoting chaos and fear, but as well as denouncing churches from meeting. Isn't that the purpose of the church, to be able to be open and gather people that are hurting and so.
So taking away our charters and charter is changing the governments, and look what's happening to the mayors?
Yep. So businesses are not opening up. And for me, it was just one of those questions. Why, why? It's because the state controls the licensing process. So they can just not renew it, or they can just take it away. So businesses are afraid of that. So
22nd grievance took away legislators and says he has the power to make laws.
Yep, and people have been begging him for, the last couple of protests, people have been asking to go back to work, and we are a three branch government, but yet he seems to just override everybody else and just do what he wants.
Given us the right to govern us, given up right to govern because wage war against us. In other words, this is that visible enemy.
So he was saying that those out there do have the right to protest, but they are not wearing masks. So he's literally pinning us against each other and inciting violence for not social distancing.
Attack on our own people in towns and the coast there?
So I have talked to small business owners from up north, and a lot of those areas have been hit because their businesses are not going to recover from this. Izzy, which had been here for
Izzy's Ice Cream.
Yep, Izzy's Ice Cream have been here for over 20 years. They are closing.
Anyway, it's
okay. Next one.
Yep.
Armies and foreign soldiers. Go ahead.
Yep. So once again, if unchecked, what can he do? Katrina, we knew that the National Guard was there for relief aid, but also arresting people. So could that happen here if we don't do anything about it?
Fellow Americans fight one another. Look what's happening in the stores.
So the stores.
He's getting us. That's the 22nd disagreement there.
Yep.
Saying that, hey, grievances here. You're getting us to fight with one another.
Yep. I think that says everything, about it. Neighbors, calling on each other, people fighting. So, and stirring up quarrel amongst each other. So,
thanks, man.
There you go.
All right, switch back to my slides. Thanks, Alex. Now I got to see where I'm at. This isn't functioning there, so we're trying to do technology there. Okay, so nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time. So you can read this through the Declaration of Independence there, okay? You can see what's going on there, and you can see that. Listen, we're trying to be as peaceful as we can. So we're trying to do everything that we can to just bring about this peacefully, but it's getting tense. So our signs that are out there, they were at this protest and stuff, we could see that they're pretty polite right now, but we're going to see a turning where, again, there's probably going to be more derogatory terms that are going on there. And so look at the end of the Declaration of Independence. And for this support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of the divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honors. That's what the 56 signers did. And they basically signed their death warrant. Okay, I'm not talking about armed insurrection. I just don't think we can get people to do that, because I don't want to abolish this form of government. I just want our Declaration of Independence. I want the U.S. Constitution to be enforced. That's all I'm asking for. And what happens if the governor gives an order and no one pays attention to it? And we just do this. But as we said here, they hold the licensings to hotels, to restaurants, to bars, to resorts, to those things. But look about this when it comes to the Declaration of Independence. Many consider the Declaration of Independence to be the philosophical foundation of American freedom. And many quote from it. But I'm going to give you a quote from a guy for about a minute here. Look what he says about America and what we're all about. Okay, we got to get that sound up again. All right, you ready? All right, here we go.
Anyway, it's not a right-left issue. It's a right-wrong issue. And America has constantly been on the side of what's right. Because when it comes down to it, this is about keeping faith with the idea of America. Because America's an idea, isn't it? I mean, Ireland's a great country, but it's not an idea. Great Britain's a great country. It's not an idea. That's how we see you around the world, as one of the greatest ideas in human history, right up there with the Renaissance, right up there with crop rotation and the Beatles' White Album. The idea, the American idea, it's an idea. The idea is that you and me are created equal. It will ensure that an economic recession need not become an equality recession. The idea that life is not meant to be endured but enjoyed. The idea that if we have dignity, if we have justice, then leave it to us, we'll do the rest. This country was the first to claw its way out of darkness and put that on paper. And God love you for it, because these aren't just American ideas anymore. There's no copyright on them. You brought them into the world. It's a wide world now. I know Americans say they have a bit of the world in them, and you do. The family tree has lots of branches. But the thing is, the world has a bit of America in it too. These truths, your truths, they're self-evident in us.
That there's an Irishman. And that's the thing. I'm not trying to abolish this form of government. So who misquotes me or whatever, but I just want the government that we've had. Because why? Because it keeps us free so we can preach the gospel. And you look at the First Amendment there about the right to assemble. No, you shall not infringe upon religion. And then the Amendment 2, the right to bear arms. Why? To make sure the politicians don't forget. All right? And I'm seeing a few people show up. We have the right to carry. And I'm seeing people show up with the legal right to carry at the state capitol. Of course, they did that in Michigan. A lot showed up, and all you saw in the news was armed protesters stormed the capitol. No, it's legal to carry in the state capitol, and you can do that. They can't forbid that. You know, I want to give you some things here when it comes to this. This was yesterday at this protest. And this is our state capitol here. I started there. There's a few cars coming here, and then they just started showing up. I like this lady. I've seen her around a few times there. Hey, your kids, I gave them my camera there, my phone. They took pictures there and stuff. Open up Minnesota, you know, and these are the various things going on in the signs that you've seen there. Hey, how's the hot water now, frogs? And that's that whole analogy of that if you put a frog in a pot of cold water, it won't jump out. But if you slowly turn the heat up, it'll stay there all the way till you boil it to death. And so she's saying, how do you like the frogs now? And so, again, these are just people simply protesting here. But then it just started getting crowded. And then you couldn't drive around the block. So I just got out with my flag, and I just got there, and I met these fanatics here as well. And we're doing this here. And I guess you guys were Facebooking live or whatever. And so we're out here, and we're doing this. And this is what we get to do. We get the right to assemble. We get to do this. All right? But they wanted to make sure we didn't rush the steps of the Capitol because, you know, it's closed. And we're able to do these things here. You know, you get here with the veterans and the Veterans Party here, so we're able to do these things here. But this is why I say this is the pandemic of 1918, the Spanish flu. And it went all the way, and they stretched further than we're going. It stretched all the way into 1919. 150 churchgoers were arrested. That's why I got this card from the only bail bondsman that was out there at the protest yesterday, and I said, hey, it's 612 want out, so if you ever need it. I said, give me that. And she goes, you want more? And I said, no, a lot of the pastors I know won't be arrested. So I just need one. Make sure you guys do this, and you promise to take care of Kimberly there. I don't want to be arrested. We're working under the exemptions and this. I'm not looking, I don't want to be a martyr. I don't want to be a trailblazer. I don't want to. I do not want to go to jail. I've been to jail. I've had that experience. Done, over with. But yet, they're out there handing out cards because they're like, they know something. People are going to be getting arrested quite possibly. Again, get our website out for the radio.ccstpaul.org. Remember to spell out St. Paul. Because I don't even know if YouTube or Facebook are going to let this stay up. But you know we can do this. You know, and I'll finish up with this. This is me graduating boot camp, United States Marine Corps. Hoorah, Semper Fi. And in case you're wondering where I'm at, I'm right there. Can you tell? Can you tell? It's not like that. But you couldn't have told me in 1981, I was at the end of President Carter and the beginning of Reagan, that our country would not be where it's at right now. I've sworn to defend the United States Constitution. Remember my mommy? My mommy's here. That was me the day I graduated there, boot camp, MCRD, San Diego. And going in and being a Marine, our motto is God, country, corps, unit. We're the only branch of the services that still has God in their credo. Past few presidents have done a bunch to do whatever they could to get it out, but the Marines are still there. God, country, corps, unit. Again, these are friends of mine showing off my dress blues and doing those things and just being proud and just being able to be a Marine. And I know that I'm defending the Constitution and the things that I'm going to see. I did have a little problem my first year in the Marines, so they wanted to take a picture of me and keep it a little keepsake there. But I got better, and I got deployed. I got to various other things right there. Some of you know what was going on there. But this is what I did. I chose to take my rifle and to do those things and defend for people's liberties and to do that and to go overseas and to see what has happened in other countries and to realize that we're again this idea around the world. Here's my other favorite Marine, Pastor Mike. sending me pictures. That's what Marines do. We just send each other pictures when we go and we see Marine flags and stuff. And so, but there's the guys have my back. This is the guy I've known since the Marines, and that's my best friend right there. But I want you to understand when it comes down to about being a Marine. And then the last part of that line is there that I have gone to defend your right to disrespect me, the Marine Corps, our flag, and everything else about it. I defend your right to protest, to do those things, that you have that freedom to do that and be disrespectful. And I willingly, and I do that for many others have fallen before me. But what do I fight for now? I fight for my family. I fight for my family that's right here. I want to make sure that they have a country, that they have something that's going on there. And I get involved in the process right there. I make sure that, again, and this is small compared to the more grandkids that are coming there. And I want them to know that their papu and their yaya, what we're doing is because of our faith in Jesus Christ. I want you to understand as you look at that pledge, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's a republic. But I want you to understand this. I am passionate about being American. I'm grateful I'm American. I am passionate about but I am more passionate about you knowing Jesus Christ as Savior and Lord. And that's why I desire America and Minnesota to remain free and just function under those who have gone before us. And I want to give you this when it comes to this about these are the people that I listen to. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, pastor, theologian, martyr, evangelical, considered a terrorist. Hitler made sure that he died before he killed himself, April 9th, and Hitler killed himself on the 20th. Of April of 1945. He made sure Dietrich Bonhoeffer was put to death because he withstood as an evangelical, as a Christian. He says, no, we will not follow this man. He is of the devil. I follow others like Oswald Chambers, so much so that I go and visit an exhibit 100 years after his death, and I want to see his Bible. I want to see these things. So Kimberly and I, on a wedding, on an anniversary, we go to Daniel Nash. We go to his grave. That's in his book, The Prevailing Prince of Prayer. This is how we spend our vacation times. This is what we want to do. I watch and I listen to C.S. Lewis that Winston Churchill during World War II had him broadcast 15-minute messages every day of hope and encouragement. We can't even get that on our radios today and stuff. What about Peter Muhlenberg, the pastor turned soldier? This is a guy who preached a sermon that there's a time for war, there's a time for peace, there's a time for this, there's a time for that. As the Revolutionary War started, and at the end of his sermon, he took off his clerical robes and he had his Continental Army uniform on. And he left with 300 other men. And they all kissed their wife and children goodbye because they figured they were never going to see them again. So that they can ensure that you could sit at home or be harassed by this. So what do I do? People who have an offense with me? These are the people that I read. These are my heroes. But I am, again, passionate. Listen, that flag, and I want to make a comparison, and I will end with this. I will bleed on the flag of the United States to ensure that the stripes stay red. I'm even more passionate about people coming to know Jesus Christ as Savior and Lord. So, of all the things that I've presented today, where do you stand? Where do you sit? I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to go to internment camps. I don't want to be arrested. I pray for this nation, but yet we all know that this is spiritual. This is a conditioning for the world. And it's not about how much I'm getting unemployment, how much I'm getting this, what am I doing, so like that. What have I done? It's about Jesus Christ. And we're to spend our time letting people know. So you get your unemployment, you get your stimulus things, whatever. I'm encouraging you, flock, pay off your debts. Because this bill is going to come due. There's going to be inflation. And we're storing up now for the next few months. It's going to get worse. And let me tell you something. There are going to be good law-abiding citizens that their kids are hungry and they're going to be breaking some laws to feed their kids, to take care of them and to do those things. Listen, I will bleed on the flag to ensure those stripes stay red. But Jesus Christ has already poured out his blood for you and I so we can be faithful till he comes and to sanctify us. I'm grateful for the United States of America and what I have, and I want to continue to see it free so we can continue to preach the gospel. But make no mistake, they're doing everything they can. These out-of-control governors, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? He's going to go past May 18th. He's already said he's going well into July. And he keeps extending. And when Minnesotans go, he's not going to go longer. He's not going to go longer. It might be when he cancels, or puts it on his shoulders, that when he cancels the Minnesota State Fair and you can't get your deep-fried Twinkie. Will that be the line? Will that be the line? Well, so be it. We're not going to do an armed insurrection. I just want to see the Minnesota State Constitution enforced, and I want to see the United States Constitution enforced. But the only thing you can do as far as a revolution is resist, and make sure you vote these clowns out, and so we can keep this form of government. Sad thing that saddened me yesterday is none of our conservative or none of those who believe in the Constitution, representatives that we've either voted for or got in office, none of them showed up yesterday. Would have been a prime thing. That's all about the people. This is why it's getting more and more tense. Find out who your state representatives are and what they're doing. Alex, get him on the microphone right here. Get a shot on him. You go to the Capitol, and what about, because we're East Siders, what is your state representative? And here's the thing, they frustrate people. They hide meetings everywhere. You can't go to these hearings on the red flag laws and all that kind of stuff about, in other words, you're proven guilty. You're guilty before you can prove yourself innocent. And they're taking they're trying to pass laws where they can take your weapons, because how do you subdue people? You got to take their weapons first. Right. What did your state representative say when he finally came unhinged? What did he say to you when you asked him about this?
Well, he doesn't like me. My state representative is Representative Jay Zhang. He's a heavier set guy, and he does not like me. And so as I was asking him a question one time, and he was just getting frustrated after me just poking and prodding at him, he said something to the equivalent of, what does it matter about your freedom? Like he slipped and then caught himself, and then he looked at me, and then I looked at him, and then I said, there you go. That was it. Like all of his, and ever since then, we've just, it's just been that obvious. So I usually go and meet him every time he sends out his newsletter. I always print it out, and I go and literally meet with him and, have him justify supporting every single thing. So that's something I
Thank
do
you.
to help.
Yeah, so find out who your local, we're not talking U.S. representatives in the House and the Congress at the nation's capital. We're talking your House. We have the same thing here, folks. We have 3 branches of government here. Executive, Governor Walz, a.k.a. the King, Legislature, which they won't rescind or vote anything on, and the judicial. Now what happens to happen is he has to be sued judicially and being told that his orders are unconstitutional. But no one's doing that. None of our elected officials who are doing that. None of them doing it. So it's going to get more and more tense, folks, but find out who your elected officials are, find out who they are, find out and get them on record. Do as I've sent Alex to the Capitol to keep us informed, and to say, what does it matter about your freedoms? Who gives them these powers? We're here, folks. So with that, because we're here, and this is conditioning for a one world government, for the Antichrist and all those things, hey, before that happens, we're raptured out. But until then, we can use this as an opportunity to share the love of Jesus Christ with people and get them saved, because this is nothing compared to what's coming to a lost and dying world that'll be left behind. Would you pray with me? Heavenly Father, thank you for today. I just ask that you be Lord and lifted up, and that God, that your will be accomplished in our lives, and may we as Calvary Chapel St. Paul folks continue to bring the true relief that only you can bring. So Lord Jesus, your blood is what covers us. So we praise you. We thank you for forgiveness of sin, and may your will be accomplished in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, again, look at this slide right here. For those of you on YouTube or Facebook, start listening to Bible radio. This message will be rebroadcast throughout the week, an audio. Listen for that, but also be texting this out to others. I don't know if YouTube and Facebook are going to let this stay up, and Google's and all the others, because they're closing down churches. But keep that in prayer and pass this information on, and we'll go from there. Get the link out as much as you can. May the Lord richly bless you. Have a great day. Thanks for sticking around, and God bless you all.